1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations regarding boundary dispute between Kwale and Kilifi counties. In the statement, the committee should, number one, Mr. Speaker, explain the scope of the boundary disputes between Kwale and Kilifi counties, especially in Kanjawacha village in Samburu/Chengoni ward in Kwale County, disclosing the underlying causes of the disputes as well as any obstacles impeding its resolution. Number two, state reasons for the frequent clashes between the Gede, Mitangani, and Duruma communities, clarifying whether they are linked to the boundary dispute. Number three, outline any steps taken by the national and county governments to resolve the dispute and explain the basis for the recent declarations by the county commissioners from the respective counties regarding the matter. Number four, provide recommendations to mitigate the adverse impact of the dispute, including double taxation of traders by the county governments in boundary regions, pending resolution of the disputes. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, provide recommendations for conclusive resolution of the disputes, outlining any targeted interventions required of the national and county governments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the record, I'm holding brief for Senator Eddie Okech of Migori. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the use of unnecessary and excessive force by the police during the peaceful procession by the Kenya Medical...
Order, honorable senators. Senator Fernandi, you cannot locate your seat. It's somewhere here.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to take it from the top. Arise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the use of unnecessary and excessive force by the police during the peaceful procession by the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, on Thursday, 29th February 2024. In the statement, the committee should state whether the Nairobi Regional Police Commander was notified by KMPDU of their intention to hold a peaceful procession on Thursday, 29th February 2024, and requested to provide security for the procession. Number two, outline the protocols for police engagement during demonstrations, explaining why KMPDU's peaceful march was disrupted by the police, who, unprovoked and in close range, launched tear gas at KMPDU's members, gravely injuring the Union Secretary General, Mr. Davji Atela, and several young medical interns. Three, disclose the identities of all officers who launched tear gas at the procession, particularly targeting the Union's Secretary General, and provide a status update on disciplinary proceedings initiated against the said officers. Number four, indicate whether the government has or intends to provide medical assistance and compensate those who are injured by police during the procession. And finally, Mr. Speaker, outline any measures put in place to guard against intimidation and harassment of individuals exercising their constitutional right to demonstrate peaceably and to safeguard similar incidents in the future. Senator Eddie Okech, MP, Senator for Migori County. Thank you, Speaker.
Senator Veronica Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I have two statements, and I believe I can take both of them together. I have a statement on the effects of the proposed energy, electricity market, bulk supply, and open access regulations. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the effects of the proposed energy, electricity market, bulk supply, and open access regulation by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, PPRA, on the electricity sector in the country. In the statement, the committee should, one, explain the capacity of the proposed energy regulations 2024 to pave the way
Senator Veronica, your colleagues cannot hear you. Just use the other microphone.
this way. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to the Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the effects of the proposed energy, electricity markets, bulk supply and open access regulations by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority on the electricity sector in the country. In the statement, the committee should, one, explain the capacity of the proposed Energy Regulation 2024 to pave the way for a more dynamic and potentially more cost-effective energy market for Kenyan consumers. Two, state strategies and measures put in place by the Ministry of Energy to ensure a smooth and successful transition upon doing away with the monopoly in electricity transmission and distribution currently enjoyed by Kenya Power and Lighting Company Limited, KPLC. Three, elucidate any potential challenges and opportunities that are likely to be brought about by the proposed regulations with a view to safeguarding consumer interest throughout this transformation. Four, outline the extent to which independent power producers, IPPs, ignite healthy competition, potentially resulting in streamlining of the electricity market and ensuring optimal resource utilization, thereby fortifying the nation's power infrastructure and reliability. And five, explain any oversight mechanism the government has put in place to ensure that the envisioned benefits for Kenyans are realized to the fullest, particularly enhanced market efficiency, the possibility of affording consumers a broader spectrum of choices of service providers, as well as inventive solutions and reduced electricity prices. Signed by myself. And I have a second statement, Mr. Speaker, on the efficiency and competitiveness of the Port of Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the efficiency and competitiveness of the Port of Mombasa. In the statement, the committee should, one, report on the efficiency of the Port of Mombasa, providing details on how the vessel waiting and turnaround time.
Order, Senator Kajwang. I've watched you very keenly. Now you're on the 6th minute, just exchanging greetings. Kindly make use of the lounge. It has no standing orders. Proceed, Senator Veronica.
Report on the efficiency of the Port of Mombasa, providing details on how the vessel waiting and turnaround time, as well as the cargo dwell time, compare with internally set targets and with other major ports in the region. Two, state the impact of operations of the Port of Mombasa on Kenya's overall economic growth and development goals, particularly in terms of trade facilitation, job creation, and revenue generation. Three, outline measures put in place by government to further increase efficiency at the port and to ensure its continued competitiveness in facilitating international trade. And four, explain what the government is doing to incentivize the use of rail transport for cargo shipments, particularly through the SGR, Standard Gauge Railway, to ease pressure on road infrastructure, signed by myself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakoli. Senator Seki, take your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the policies governing confirmation of appointment into public service after probation period. In the statement, the committee should, one, elucidate the specific conditions and requirements necessary for a public servant to be confirmed in appointment following completion of the probation period in public service. Two, spell out the guidelines governing public servants serving under probation, highlighting both acceptable.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Miraj and Senator Kada. You may consult, yes, but please keep it on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Two, spell out the guidelines governing public servants serving under probation, highlighting both acceptable practices and potential violations that may lead to demotion or disciplinary action. Three, conduct an investigation and furnish a comprehensive report on the recent matter at Kenya Railways concerning an officer who served on probation as General Manager of Supply Chain Management from 24th June 2023 to 15th February 2024, and was further appointed to the position of Procurement Manager following the completion of a probation period. And four, recommend measures to be implemented by the relevant authorities to mitigate disputes between government and civil servants serving on probation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, I have two statements. With your kind permission, I would request that I take both of them. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the exclusion of alternative provision of basic education and training institutions, formerly known as APBET institutions, from the education framework. In the statement, the committee should state the number of APBET institutions operating in Nairobi City County and within the nomadic communities across Kenya, indicating their respective enrollment figures. Number two, explain the failure by government to recognize APBET institutions, consequently denying them, the institutions and their learners access to national and county government support and services, including capitation, which are available to other comparable learning institutions. Number three, clarify whether the government intends to formulate regulations for APBET institutions that are feasible and distinct from regulations for conventional schools, and if so, provide timelines for the same. And finally, Mr. Speaker, highlight any initiatives taken by government to ramp up enrollment of learners to APBET institutions, especially within the nomadic communities where the population is largely excluded from formal school systems. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is a statement pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on the ownership of Karioko Estate in Starehe constituency, Nairobi County. In the statement, the committee should, one, clarify whether the residents of Karioko Estate are the lawful owners of the housing units as per the terms outlined in the tenant purchase agreement of 1965, and further avail that tenant purchase agreement to the Senate. Number two, explain why rent for the units is being remitted to a special kitty instead of direct remittance to the county government of Nairobi City. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, disclose the identity of the entity receiving rent from the units, outlining any existing agreements between the county government of Nairobi and that entity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tomo Jenda. That statement is dropped. Senator S.C. Okanyuri.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the disbursement of WESO fund by the Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSMEs Development. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a countrywide report of the total amount of loans disbursed from the WESO Fund since its establishment in the year 2014 to date, clearly indicating the amount released to each of the 290 constituencies for the 3 intended categories, that is youth, women, and persons with disabilities for the said period. 2, provide a report of the total amount of non-performing loans resulting from the fund and outline the strategies put in place by the relevant ministry to recover the defaulted loans. 3, report on its assessment on the economic impact the fund has had in expanding access to finances for the youth, women, and persons with disabilities for business and enterprise development since its inception. And finally, provide the most recent audited reports by the Auditor General on the fund and outline the measures being put in place by the ministry to ensure prudent and efficient use of the public finance management. Ukenyuri MP.
Senator Alexander Mundigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Request for statement on the state of early childhood development education ECDE teachers training in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise person to standing under 53-1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on Education concerning the state of early childhood development education ECDE teachers training in the country. In the statement, the committee should provide the enrollment figures for both the diploma in primary education and the diploma in early childhood development education ECDE across the teachers training college TTC. Outline the minister's effort to increase ECDE trainee enrollment to TTCs while ensuring immediate compliance with the national primary policy guidelines that stipulate that tutors of ECDE teachers possess minimum qualification of degree in early childhood development education, noting an increase in student switching from the diploma in ECDE to the diploma in primary education due to entry qualification adjustment. Detail in the immediate measures being taken by the minister to current the inappropriate methodological training approach for the diploma in ECDE at TTC, considering that current tutors in TTCs are preliminary 24 primary education. 4, specify the number of licensed private ECDE teachers training colleges offering the diploma in ECDE, providing an update on the current status registered private ECDE training colleges that offered ECDE teachers training before the restructuring of teachers education, and further outline plans for the licensing of additional private ECDE training colleges. And 5, spell out the ministry engagement with the stakeholders in the education sector towards addressing the challenges facing the training of ECDEs teachers in order to guarantee the country suitably trained teachers. Senator Alexander Mundigi, Embu County.
Senator Fatuma Dulo. That statement is dropped. Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations regarding the conditions of market within Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should, one, report on the state of key markets in Vihiga County, including but not limited to Mbale, Majengo, Luanda, Serem, Chavakali, Cheptulu, Shamahogo, Esibuye, Mudete markets, specifically addressing the availability and functionality of essential services such as water supply, street lighting, waste management, and sanitation. Number two, provide a status update of all the market improvements and or expansion projects initiated by the county government of Vihiga from the financial year 2013-2014 to date. Three, provide a breakdown of the on-source revenue generated by the county government from each market from the financial year 2018-2019 to date, giving a comparison of the revenue to the total cost incurred for the services, construction projects, and market improvements, as well as amount retained from the revenue. Number four, state the impact of the February 2024 tax boycott by the traders at Luanda Market on revenue collection, stating measures, if any, that the county has taken to resolve their grievances by the traders. And five, state reasons for the delay in the appointment of municipal managers for market designated as municipalities under the Urban Area and Cities Act, and provide the expected timelines for this appointment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fernandez. Senator Fernandez. Senator Tabitha certainly is not the Senator Fernandez.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the Senator for Nakuru is confusing me. Request for statement on the criteria used by Athletics Kenya to identify and select their team for the upcoming 13 African Games in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the criteria being used by Athletics Kenya to identify and select the officials and team representing Kenya at the upcoming 13th edition of the African Games in Accra, Ghana. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the statement, the committee should, one, outline the criteria being used by Athletics Kenya to select the team and officials who will represent Kenya, stating the level of preparedness by all the federations and teams currently preparing for the African Games to be held in Ghana. So, Speaker, number two, state the reasons that prompted the Kenya National Sports Council to advise federations to scale down on representatives to the African Games, yet the Games had been fully budgeted for in financial year 2023, explaining the fate of those left out from the 259 athletes and officials who were initially slated to travel to Ghana. Number three, explain any actions the Ministry of Sports, in collaboration with Athletics Kenya, has taken to ensure the morale and team spirit of Team Kenya remains high, considering that athletes had boycotted the track exercises at the Nyayo National Stadium because they were disgruntled. So, Speaker, sir, finally, provide a list of all sponsors currently in contract with all the sports federations on the sponsorship and partnership, detailing what they have contributed in support of Kenya's preparation at the All African Games in Accra, Ghana. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator John Kenywa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for state in Laikipia. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the status of processing of land ownership document for residents of Nanyuki and Makutano Gobet Ward in Laikipia County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status update on the processing of title deeds and green cards for residents of Kanyoni and Sharon villages of Nanyuki and Makutano Gobet wards, respectively, stating the challenges encountered, if any. 2, state when the State Department of Lands and Physical Planning, in partnership with the National Land Commission, will issue the affected residents with title deeds and green cards for their parcel of land while ensuring the accuracy of the land ownership documents. And 3, disclose the measures the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development is implementing to streamline and accelerate the issuance of land ownership documents such as green cards and title deeds in the country, thereby reducing application backlog. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tabitha Keroche.
Mr. Speaker, sir, request for statement on the state and reasons for eviction of 140,000 people living in the Bibi Maela ward in Naivasha sub-county. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53 to seek a statement for Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the state and reasons for eviction of 140,000 people living in the Bibi Maela ward, Naivasha sub-county. In the statement, the committee should state the reasons for forceful evictions of 140,000 people living in the Bibi Maela ward in Naivasha sub-county, and motive behind destruction of 40,000 homestead, illegal curfews, stealing of harvested maize by GSU officers, use of live ammunition against civilians in their residence, inhuman acts of violence, rape, arbitrary arrest, and illegal detention of more than 100 people in police cells outside Nakuru County. Explain why the government used force to possess private land, fencing, establishing illegal boundaries in a private land that is legally registered and owned by the Bibi Farmers Company Limited with valid title deed number IR 1417 and LR 1695, measuring 2,500 acres and 4 acres, issued by colonial government in 1924 to Lord
Order, Senator Mtata.
Colville, a white settler who gifted the land on 12th March 1974 on his 202 former workers registered under the name Dibidi Farmers Company Limited, which was registered on 26th May 1972. Explain why the government sent hundreds of GSU police officers to forcefully evict, torture, harass, threatening, frog marching naked women in presence of their sons, sexually abuse them, removing women in their houses at night where their husband watch helplessly, and guarding of private property despite the court order number E018 of 2024, issued by Naivasha Law Court on 29th February 2024, where the Bibi Farmers Company Limited were granted permission to continue living in their land and the court instructed anyone who feels they own part of the land should produce documents to prove ownership. Otherwise, what is in court is a land title deed number IR 1417 and R 1695 measuring 2,504 acres belonging to 202 former workers, and nobody has ever challenged this fact in court. Explain why government officials, namely area chief, division officer, and sub-county commissioners are leasing out and collecting illegal fees on private land owned by the Bithi Farmers Company. Signed by Senator Keroche of Nakuru County. Asante.
Senator John Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Information, Communication and Technology on the increased number of dropped calls on the mobile network telecommunication service provider Safaricom. In the statement, the committee should, number one, explain why callers on the Safaricom network are increasingly experiencing dropped calls when they use calling services on the network despite its market dominance, and number two, outline any measures put in place by the Communication Authority to protect Kenyans from such substandard service. Signed by Senator John Methu, MP, Senator for Nyandarua County.
Senator Mohammed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm requesting for a statement on resettlement of internally displaced persons from Marsabit County. The Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding resettlement of internally displaced persons from Saku constituency in Marsabit County. In the statement, the committee should, one, state the number of IDPs from Gabra scheme, Konsobanchale, Oladaba, and Isako Muro villages in Saku constituency in Marsabit County, who were forced out of their homes during the intercommunal clashes that occurred in the county over 7 years ago. Two, inform the Senate of the humanitarian assistance extended to the IDPs, providing details of any initiatives by the government to resettle the IDPs. Number three, outline any steps taken by the government to conclusively address the root cause of such conflict in the county and prevent recurrence of the same. And finally, four, state any contingency plans put in place by the government to mitigate the effects of any future clashes. Statement number two is on the distribution of relief supplies to the residents of Marsabit County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the distribution of relief supplies to the residents of Marsabit County. In the statement, the committee should, one, state the type, quality, packaging, and price of relief supplies distributed to the residents of Marsabit County who have been severely affected by drought and other extreme weather conditions. Number two, provide a list of all organizations and transport services providers that have been contracted to supply transport relief aid to the affected areas in the last 2 years, indicating the total cost incurred in transportation, and finally, explain why relief supplies are offloaded miles away from the designated locations, as was the case with the non-food items meant for the people of Manyata and Nabei in Kor, which were left at Laisamis constituency. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise Pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the status of infrastructure projects undertaken by all county governments in the education sector. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should provide an audit report on the total budget utilized by all the 47 counties in the provision of infrastructure and services to primary and secondary schools, detailing the amount of money spent and indicate whether these activities have in any way disadvantaged early childhood development centers, ECDs. Number two, provide a status of all preschools, early childhood development centers and nursery schools constructed by respective county governments. And finally, Mr. Speaker, give a detailed report of primary and secondary schools built by the respective county governments, particularly the Narok County government, indicating the budget used from financial year 2019-2020 to date. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, there was a statement that is supposed to be made pursuant to Standing Order 52. Though we've passed that standing order, I will nevertheless allow Senator Mogeni, due to its importance, I will allow the Honorable Senator to make that statement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on a matter of general topical concern, namely disbursement for operating expenses of county and constituency operation offices. Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to inform the House on the progress made in the disbursement of funds to county offices by the Parliamentary Service Commission, PSC. This I do appreciating my duty to this House, which approved my appointment as Commissioner to PSC on Wednesday, 9th November 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to notify the House that the Parliamentary Service Commission had, as of Thursday, 7th March 2023, received and processed operational returns from 39 county offices. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Commission proceeded to process payment for the offices for their office operations for the quarter January to March 2024. The Speaker, sir, I wish to notify the honorable senators that the vouchers for payments of the disbursements for the mentioned quarter are in the cash office pending payment. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to bring to the attention of the House that we did request for exchequer from the National Treasury, but up to date, as of 7th March 2024, we have not been funded. Mr. Speaker, sir, as an interim measure, the Commission has facilitated the payment of staff salaries for the period of January and February 2022. I therefore wish to bring to the attention of account for their office expenses for the period January, February, and March 2024. We have been unable to disburse this money to the respective accounts due to inability of release of exchequer by the national government. I therefore request senators to take note for general information and not to confront me on the corridors as to why money has not reached their accounts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I will allow comments on these statements to senators from its side. Senator Enoch, proceed.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our Senator Commissioner Mogeni for updating the House on the status of the release of funds, especially for operations, to our respective county offices. The Speaker, we are in a situation where we are now beginning to play hide and seek with the electorate and even our own staff members. Because the Speaker, the funds that Senator Mogeni has made reference to for the operations, so the funds that senators will use for tea in the office, for hiring of taxis to different destinations. The Speaker, the amount of debt that has been accumulated by the respective offices of senators are staggering. Since January, Mr. Speaker, that amount has not been received in our counties. And it's actually, it even puts us in a very awkward situation that we require other government offices to operate and deliver services, but we are unable to operationalize our own offices. The Speaker, this is a matter that the Treasury must begin to take a lot more seriously than they do. That disbursements to different votes for Parliament should not be an afterthought. It should be a priority issue. That monies that were due in January have not been released to date, and there is no sign that the money will be released tomorrow or the day after. The Speaker, the Treasury must take note, and I thank the PSC for that update. I thank you.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have heard our good commissioner, and because I've and the House, we have absolute confidence in them. I wanted to encourage them. Parliamentary Service Commission must realize that under Article 249 of the Constitution, 248 of the Constitution, you enjoy absolute independence. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you allow, I would like to quote 249 249(2)(b), independent and not subject to direction or control by any person or authority, and that you are subject only to this Constitution and the law. Given this provision, given that the National Assembly has done the necessary appropriation, at what point does the Parliamentary Service Commission, and I'm not addressing Senator Mogeni, I'm addressing the Commission, do you lose your independence that the envisaged independence of the budget of Parliament ends up being subject to the direction of the executive? We would like you to briefly tell us that you are up to the job, and if there are challenges you are facing, then approach Parliament so that we can adversely engage the executive. If Parliament is going to fail because you are losing your independence, that is the beginning of failure of government, because if Parliament is unable to oversight the executive, you open up avenues for corruption and all that. We therefore would like to encourage you and tell you that we are behind you. This is not personal. It is about the Constitution of Kenya. The executive must be oversighted. And we are here equipped, ready and willing, energetic. We want to do it. The old era where people used to do what they liked when they are in an executive office should be brought to an end. Mr. Speaker, you have seen in this House, we've had to come and answer questions arising from their portfolio. Ministers, knowing that this new trend was actually pioneered by their nominating authority, the President of Kenya, they still tell us to go to hell. Members, colleagues, we must exercise the power of the purse of Parliament if you want the executive to perform. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.